in the next few years, Ruby will become more and more adopted by larger companies and enterprises. It's not going to be only used by small companies and startups.
Hi, my name's Andrew Harvey, and we're here with Pat Shaughnessy, talking all things RubyConf and his presentation there. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time, Pat.
Sure thing. It's my pleasure. It's so nice to meet you tonight.
Excellent. Now, Pat, just on a really personal level, as we start off, I'm really interested in what brought you to Ruby as a language and as a community.
Wow, fascinating question. What brought me initially was probably just it was easy to learn. It was easier than using PHP, which is what I was using before, and before that Java. So I pick up and start using it quickly. And then I was probably after that I was attracted by the. It just seemed like there were more sophisticated ideas behind it, and the people who were using it were doing things like. Rails, for example, seemed to be well thought out design framework, and there seemed to be a lot of engineering practices and maturity behind it. So I was attracted to that, and then I think after that, what really drew me in was just the amount of community involvement and just the people and personalities. As I've become more involved with Ruby in the last few years, I've just had so much fun writing and getting to know people, and the more I get involved, the more fun I have. So I think at the end of the day, it's the people that's gotten me most hooked and most interested in Ruby, and less the code or the language itself. But I think the code was what got me hooked in the first place.
Very cool. Now, I suppose running on from that a little bit, what is it these days that excites you about Ruby? Answer that as you will.
Well, so what I've been doing for the last couple of years, and if you've had a chance to read some of my blog articles, I also wrote a book last year, and I updated it this year, called Ruby Under a Microscope. What I've been really excited about in the last couple of years is learning about how Ruby works internally. So as I said initially, when I first learned Ruby, it was a nice language. It was fun to use, easy to learn. But as I've gotten to learn more and more about Ruby, I became fascinated with the question of, how does Ruby work under the hood? Inside the language itself, how does the C code that Matt's and the Ruby core team wrote? How does that work? How did they make this this sort of magical language come alive for everyone? And I think at first glance, when you see Ruby initially, it seems very simple and it's easy to pick up and use it quickly. But then as you learn more Ruby, you begin to realize it's actually a quite sophisticated, complicated tool. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of advanced programming ideas built into the language. But yet it still seems simple. So how did they do that? How did they sort of magically bring these advanced programming ideas into Ruby, but yet keep it still simple enough where people can learn it quickly and use it effectively? And then I was also just fascinated by just generally how do programming languages work. So for the last couple of years, I've been doing almost an academic exercise of studying programming language implementation, and in particular how the Ruby core team built Ruby. And I've been writing a lot about that. So I've been trying to, teach that to people at a level where, any Ruby developer can understand my book or my articles without knowing a lot about C programming or without having a computer science degree or that sort of thing. So I really enjoy that, studying something complex and advanced like, language internals, and then explaining it in a way that, conceptually, the way that anyone can understand. That you don't need to, go to college for 4 years or 8 years or whatever, and get a degree in order to figure it out. So that's what I've been doing. And as I said, I wrote an ebook last year about Ruby internals, and I just in the last couple of weeks finished it again in a new expanded, updated format for print. So it'll be coming out on paper in the next week or two, actually. I'm hoping to bring a few copies down to the conference.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I suppose getting onto the conference, your talk is obviously a fairly kind of, it's quite a hot topic for Rubyists. What inspired you to talk about the garbage collection in the various Ruby interpreters?
Yeah, well, so a few different things. So that's one of them. I think garbage collection has been a hot topic. I know it was at another conference recently, I think in Barcelona, they had a lot of discussion there as well. And it's, over the years, garbage collection's been a sore spot for Ruby, and it's something that the core team's been working on a lot in the last few years. But for me, it's not so much about the controversy or the performance or which version of Ruby is better than which other one. I just think it's interesting. Like I said a few minutes ago, I think language internals and looking inside of Ruby and learning how things work is fascinating to me. And in particular, garbage collection is one of the most mysterious and complicated topics in computer science. So I was, on the one hand, fascinated to learn how it works, and on the other hand, I thought it would be a fun challenge to try to explain something that complicated in a way that makes sense to everyone, and so that people can understand what garbage collection is and how it works. So my goal is not to say, this Ruby is better than that Ruby, you should use this or not that, or you should, tweak your garbage collection settings in this way to get better performance. It's not about that at all. It's more about, I would love for people to learn more about how Ruby works internally, and to get an appreciation for how much work has gone into making the language function. Again, you type, obj equals object.new. It's something as simple as creating a new object in Ruby. Seems like it shouldn't be that hard to implement, but actually, years and years and really decades, if you look before Ruby in fact was into building the language that we use today. So I'm fascinated by that, by the history, by the algorithms, and I'd like to try to teach some of those to people, at least in the short time that we have during the conference.
Cool. Well, I suppose you've kind of gone and answered my next question a little bit.
Oh, no.
Maybe you want to extend on it. I don't know. What is it that you really want to see people walk away with as they walk out of your talk? What do you want them to take with them?
So first of all, an appreciation of sort of the broader history and context of computer science that's behind Ruby. So Ruby was built not just by the Ruby team, but by all the computer scientists who have come before, who sort of thought of and invented these ideas like garbage collection. But also, I want people not to be intimidated. I want the internals of the language to be, at least to seem more approachable to people, and for people not to be intimidated by that topic, and to be encouraged to to dive in themselves and try to learn about how the language works, and then ultimately to contribute back to Ruby themselves. I think maybe because of the C programming or for whatever other reason, people may be happy to contribute to Ruby open source projects like Rails or Sinatra or whatever, but they might be a little more intimidated to go back and contribute C code to the language itself. So I'd like to encourage more people to get interested in that topic and to not be intimidated by it, and to have enough confidence to go and learn more about it themselves.
Very cool. And one final question. I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at the schedule for RubyConf, but are there any talks on there that you're really looking forward to seeing?
Oh my God, there's so many. I can't even. My challenge is just deciding what to go see, and and then remembering. I think I need to write it down on my wrist or something. What to do first, second, and third. I always get a little lost and disorganized when I'm there. But yeah, there's a lot that stand out for me. One of them is by my friend Doel Sengupta and her partner Manu, who are coming over from India. They're going to talk about BioRuby. So that just seems like a really fascinating, different topic, and I'm curious to learn more about that. And I'm impressed they're traveling from so far away to come to Florida. Another person, Nell Shamrell, is doing a talk on regular expressions and how they work. I think internally under the hood. So that's interesting to me, just to hear more about Ruby internals from someone else and to look at, to learn more about that topic. The stuff you mentioned earlier, actually, we were chatting a few minutes ago about Jeff Casimir's, what he'll be doing. That sounds fascinating. I know Ernie Miller is doing a keynote talk one of the mornings, so I'm looking forward to that. And of course, Mats himself will be at the conference, so it's always fun to hear him and to see, to hear what he's going to talk about and what he's thinking about. So there's just so much, I don't even know where to begin, and I need to remember to organize myself every morning and make sure I don't miss something.
Yeah, it's going to be a great conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I can't. It's next week. I'm very excited. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Can't wait to get there.
Thank you so much. Those were great answers. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in Miami.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Take care.